Hello, everybody. Good morning, afternoon. I don't know what time it is, but I hope you enjoyed the video to give you a little bit of a sense of what CERN is. But let me start by asking, how many of you are familiar with CERN? Woo! Okay, how many of you have been to CERN? 1, 2, oh, come on. 3. Don't be shy. Okay, at least you've seen a little video of it. Now I'll try to get you even more excited to the point that maybe you'll catch a flight and come and see us. It's only 45 minutes. Today it took us 45 minutes. There was a lot of wind pushing us here. So, all right, so this is an IT conference. So I'm not really going to talk about physics. I'm going to talk about IT. Is that okay? Very good. So the title is really, The Path to Discoveries is Engraved in Data, because that's where it all starts. So, CERN has a small mission. We're trying to uncovering the origin of the universe. You know, almost 14 billion years ago, for those of you who watched the Big Bang Theory, have you all watched the Big Bang Theory? Right. So, you know, 13.8 billion years ago, there was a Big Bang. We don't really know what's before that. So we know what's after that because we have a lot of satellite imagery and stuff that takes a picture inside the universe to try and understand how going back to it. But what we do at CERN, we run a very large accelerator that you've seen in the video, where proton particles travel at 99.9999% the speed of light, clockwise and counterclockwise, at about at absolute zero temperature, and a super vacuum to avoid any interference with the path of travel. Now, they have to travel in a circular path. So the accelerator is about 27 kilometers long and lies about 100 meters underground to avoid any contamination with the external environment. And it has to be very protected. So at 4 points in this circle, the particles collide. Well, we try to make them collide. We turn them around with magnets, with very strong magnets that make them turn, and then we squeeze them with quadruple magnets to make sure that there is the opportunity for them to hit. Because proton particles are the size of my hair, even smaller. So imagine bunches of these proton particles are trying to hit, and there is a lot of miss. But when they hit, they clash, and they generate more particles. So this is where the science, the real science happens. The more particles, and what we do with massive detectors, we take pictures of them. Okay, this is about 1 billion collisions a second that happens. And therefore, imagine these cameras, which are about 4 of them, about 45 meters long and 25 meters high, massive technology that needs to take pictures of these very fast collisions. And then what happens when these collisions, have you seen the circle in the videos? These collisions happen, the data is captured, too much data for us to manage even at CERN. So there is what we call the first level trigger. There is a lot of electronics that cuts out about 90% of this. These are maybe collisions we've already seen, things that we've already done, and they're not helpful to do what we need to do, which is understanding what could have happened when the Big Bang happened, okay? So we're trying to recreate the universe, the conditions in the universe, a billionth of a second after the Big Bang, because we want to know, before particles created, what was there. When there was this primordial soup, when nothing there was a perfect balance of matter and antimatter, we want to ask questions like, what happened to antimatter since we're all made of matter? Why is gravity such a weak force? Although when I weigh myself in the morning, it doesn't look like gravity is that weak. But there are many questions that we're trying to understand. So, but to do that, all these pictures, all these images become, guess what? They become data. And that's where the magic happens, because that's when my team takes over in the computing. So this data streams travels from the pit, from underneath, it comes up, and it comes into our data center, okay? So what is a little bit the size of a problem? I hope this plot gives you a little bit what we are dealing with. All I wanted to show you here is that so CERN runs in runs. So a run is about 3-year cycle, and every 3 years we stop because we have to upgrade the machines. We put new, some of the elements, some of the material gets deteriorated. But in the next one, and we're gonna finish run 3 at the end of this year, and we're gonna stop for 3 years to upgrade to what is called high luminosity LHC, the high luminosity Large Hadron Collider. High luminosity means there are gonna be more collisions because we're gonna get smarter and better at pointing the beams to each other, and we're gonna have 10 times more data to deal with. Now, just to give you, again, a size of the data we deal with, we have just in August this year, we collected 52 petabytes of data from the collisions. So what do we do? This is an image of the tape robots from our data center. Some of you may be too young to remember what tapes look like. Who knows? Who has seen tapes before? Okay, you're not that young then. But actually, we use them now. And a lot of people saying, tapes? This is something of the past. This is what we see in IT museums. Well, let me correct you. That's not what you do. You actually see now. A lot of the exascale computing centers or storage things use tapes right now because they're very environmentally friendly, very low consumption, and very, very trusted. So we have about 500,000 CPUs in a data center, and a part of a larger network, which is called the grid, the Large Hadron Collider grid, 160 data centers in 40 countries that are parts of the larger physics studies network. There is about a million of them. And we currently store about 1 exabyte of data. So it's a pretty large infrastructure that we run. And because we need to and it's going to get bigger. But it cannot grow at the scale of the data that we collect. And therefore, we have a constant need to become smarter, to become better, to become more nimble, not to be very sensitive to sustainability issues, to consumption and stuff. And we have to get faster in analyzing the data because we currently lose about 90% of our collisions data that comes. So we are developing working a lot on AI and machine learning to trying to get faster at analyzing this data, at seeing what's really good and reconstructing it for then using it later. So I was just yesterday at a conference at CERN about open science. CERN is well known for its open science. Many of you will know that this is where the World Wide Web was invented. And it was invented coming from a problem. We had a huge amount of data, so 40 years ago, that we needed to share, that we needed to send. And then for what we did, we used to put this data on tapes, put it in large crates, put it on a ship, and send it to the US and send it to all our partners. That was kind of a cumbersome job. So there was a gentleman sitting in the office next to what I sit now. Imagine my pressure every day. His name is Tim Berners-Lee. And he thought, but what about if we use this thing called the internet to actually develop a protocol where we can send this data back and forth? So we have the 2 computers still at CERN, where Tim Berners-Lee tried and put this, and I said, well, it seems to work. We'll work the protocol. And then from there, the web was born. But why I'm telling you this, not only because, again, CERN is the cradle of innovations that you may not even know of, but because what CERN did, he decided that for it to really serve humanity, this code needed to be open. We are really the home of everything that is open source, open data, open hardware. We develop systems like Root, GEON, and SEM, and many others that are used in the physics community, but way, way, way beyond that. And again, it's part of the DNA, it's part of what we do. We believe in open science. Now, the other pillar of what we do is we educate. CERN is also an education center. We train at any year thousands of summer students, the PhD students, master students who come to CERN to work in the laboratory, whether they are physicists, IT, computing scientists, because one of the questions I'm asked all the time, and it says, but I'm not a physicist, what do I have to do about CERN? Well, let me reveal something, I'm not a physicist either. There are more than physicists at CERN. There's a lot of computing scientists, there is developers, network engineers, people working in HPCs, quantum technologies, machine learning, because remember, the engineers are what are needed to build the infrastructure. The computer scientists are those ones who make this data available. And then there is a physicist who are spread all over the world who use this data to make their science work. We have very proud, I have to say, I couldn't miss the opportunity of do a little bit of advertising about the CERN School of Computing, where people from all over the world can apply, and where we basically travel around the world and give opportunities to people who are interested in computer science to learn about it with other people from very different nationalities, but also different backgrounds. Now, this picture, I think I wanted to show this picture because I knew I was going to sit next to the women in tech. And as you can see, there are not many women here. But what I wanted to show you here is that if you look at their names, these are scientists who work together. These are people who know each other. So what's important is what I wanted to show here is that to make these discoveries like the ones that they made, and many of them are Nobel Prize winners, they all knew each other. We cannot do science on our own. And that's part of the DNA of CERN. We work with people, we work with industry, we work with other scientists to make the discoveries and the innovation that we are proud of. Many different possibilities. I look at the left, I look at the career fair, and CERN is the place that welcomes people from all over the world to work together in helping with the discoveries, regardless of your background. Diversity is how we measure success. We haven't been doing very well in attracting STEMs, women in STEMs. We're about a quarter, and we're working to make it better. And this is not just because working on diversity is a cool thing. Is that we really believe that if you want to have real innovative ideas, you get to get people from very different backgrounds, and not only but talking about gender. I'm talking about people who come from different backgrounds, from different countries, from different nationalities, from different educational systems. This is where innovations happens, is when you put different people together. So I can see the moderator approaching me, so it's time for me to go. But what I wanted to show you is this is what the CERN, the new science gateway looks like. It's the place which was open about 2 years ago. It's a place where you come and actually have a full immersion. You could play electronic proton football. You could play, you could see how an accelerator works and actually push a button and see proton particles, I think. You can really have an immersive voyage towards the make of science. And everybody who works at CERN, who has visited CERN, has become, has fallen in love with science. And I hope one day you will do that too. Thank you.
I just wanted to give the people a little bit more time to ask questions. Because it's a very special moment to have you here. Thank you again that you're here. So let's not waste any more time. Does anybody have any questions? There was a hand and there was...
Hi, thanks very much for such an interesting talk. You asked before how many people visited CERN. I actually tried, and it's very difficult to get a ticket because you can visit this hall, that's easy, but to get actually under to the accelerator is only possible during the closing time. Does it mean for the next 3 years it will be open for visitors because it will be under reconstruction?
Yes, so you're right. You do not want to go down the pit when the accelerator is on. Trust me. You don't. There's a little bit of radiations going on for the collision. So you can only visit it when he's off. And it's every year is off during the month of January and February. So that's when he opens for visits. And now because of the shutdown, it will be closed for 3 years. So it's more likely they will be due. But this has to also match with the schedule for the upgrade. So you'll have many more chances to do that in the next in this run. Yeah.
So people get your tickets now.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for this interesting keynote. You told us that you lose like 90% of the data when it gets like to the data of the collision by itself, and that you're trying to optimize that with AI and all this kind of new technology. But why do you lose 90% of the data? What's the cause of this?
We don't really lose it, we discard it. We can't handle it, it's too much. The technology that we currently have cannot deal with this deluge of things coming, of this data stream coming. So we do a first selection, which is just hardware selection, and then we do the rest. But this is why our needs is to get smarter to try to decrease the amount of data that we discard after the first collisions.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this interesting keynote as well. I wanted to ask, as an example, if you want to work at CERN, do you need a master's degree in IT, or can you also get with lower degrees into CERN? Or is there any special thing you need?
Lower degrees or other degrees?
Yeah, other degrees.
Other degrees. Yeah, I mean, as I said, when I was first hired at CERN, so I joined CERN 4 years ago, and when the recruiter called me, so I've been working in IT for many years, but I do not have a technical formal education. So when the recruiter first called me, I actually thought she was offering me, I didn't know who she was. I thought she was offering me a ticket because I was the same. I was always clicking, looking for a space. And it says never. So when it said, I'm calling from CERN, I said, oh, thank God for that. I got a ticket. And then she said, no, you ain't got the ticket. I'm working for HR. I said, okay, who wants to get a job here? Who wants a reference? No, I said, no, I'm looking at you. I said, me? I used to work in humanitarian organizations, in research organizations elsewhere. I do not have a physics background. I said, sorry, I'm not a physicist. I'm not interested. And she said, but we don't have many physicists here. And I said, what? I mean, this is one of the big myths, boss. Not everybody is Sheldon or things. They have a lot of computer engineers, in the computing department, because actually the majority of the people who work at CERN are engineers, computer engineer, data scientist. This is the majority. Not everybody, not all of them, but we also have lawyers, technicians. It's a large infrastructure where every day over 12,000 people cross the gates to come into the infrastructure to work on the maintenance of the accelerator, of the detector. So it's a huge machine. There is space for way beyond physicists or PhD scientists.
Thank you very much.
You wanted a ticket and you got one. And you're even getting paid for it. Isn't that that's exciting?
Thank you once again for the very interesting talk. My question would be more, what would you be aiming for to achieve in the next 3 years once you close down CERN? And how would you deal with the big amounts of data that will generate, and would you introduce quantum computing so that you can extract additional value from the data? Maybe you can summarize in 2-3 words what will be the biggest goals ahead, and tell us whether and how you will introduce quantum computing if this is one of the big objectives and goals of CERN.
Yeah, so for the next 3 years, we will not be taking data because there will be no collisions, but there is going to be a lot of optimization and how we extract knowledge, how we generate knowledge, how we find, how do we squeeze the data to find things. So there's a lot of computing work happening, not a lot of new storage, a lot of networking, but there is a lot of analysis. So the question is, how do we use quantum technology in general? We don't only explore the application of quantum computing in terms of new or quantum-inspired new algorithms, but we do a lot of quantum sensing. We just quantum communications. We just did the first photons network of 39 kilometers of photons traveling around the Geneva area. These are quite innovative ways in which we're exploring quantum. But one of the other interesting things, remember, CERN does a lot of things for society at large, not only for fundamental science. I showed you in the video a lot of stuff that we do for medicine, that we do for art, that we do for space explorations. And one of the things that we're doing with quantum, we're actually looking at how quantum computing can address the sustainable development goals, the kind of the large scale societal problems in terms of optimization, in terms of healthcare, and in terms, so it's a nascent discipline. We do not have a quantum computer at CERN, and we don't have any plans of building one, but we work with partner organizations, with the EuroHPC and with the new and quantum centers building around Europe to exploit them, but to build algorithms with them. So it's ask me the same question in 3 years' time, I may know more. For now is early discoveries.
I know you probably have a lot more questions. I understand that, but sadly we don't have that amount of time anymore. But you're here still a little bit. Your flight is not until a few hours. So if you have any questions, I think you could approach. Thank you so much again for your wonderful keynote.
It's a pleasure.
It was a lot of fun. A big applause to you again.
Thank you.